Well, good afternoon. Welcome to What the Tech. Today we have Aaron, who is a solution engineer from one of our partners at Blackpoint. Say hello to everybody, Aaron.
Hey everybody, great to have you, Dave.
Yeah,
Great for you to have me.
yeah. Thank you so much. I'm really excited for this quick conversation, and we appreciate your time. For our viewers today, Blackpoint is a security operations center. So SOC is a solution. We moved to Blackpoint about 2 years ago. We work in the SMB market. We work with a lot of small businesses, and we found that our clients were looking for an affordable solution for cybersecurity and specifically to have 24/7. We did a pretty in-depth research and stumbled across you guys, and the relationship has been terrific. So again, happy to have you.
Awesome. We love that. We love the work that we do for SMBs across the MSP space. It's really been the space is a passion of mine personally, but I really love the work that we do here.
Good to hear. Good to hear. Well, let me just start off. So overall, what's the state of cybersecurity today? I know it changes like every.
Yeah, no, absolutely it does. And diverse is probably that right word. Uh, what SMBs really be thinking about is if they are doing the same thing for cybersecurity today that they were 3 to 5 years ago, they're probably not in the posture to defend against today's attacks, right? Uh, Attackers have really advanced their topics, and one thing that we've really been seeing is that identity and cloud identity attacks have been trending up significantly. We are seeing about 80% of the responses we're taking these days out of the Microsoft 365 and Google Workspace clouds. Uh, Not to say that on-premises is dead. We actually have some examples of identity attacks then spreading to on-premises because of the interconnectivity that we have in these worlds. Uh, and in fact, ransomware is absolutely still a concern. But the problem that we're running into, I should say the opportunity maybe that is being run into, depending which side of the fence you're on, is that a lot of folks are refusing to pay these ransoms in a greater numbers, right? Which is fantastic. But then it's leading to ransomware actors performing different steps to try to get their money, such as data exfiltration and such as well.
Yeah. So when you say identity for our viewers, not all of our
That's
viewers are in IT. So can I ask you to expand on that a little bit? Certainly, I know what you're talking about, but
Yeah, no, absolutely. So with identity, we're talking about the email accounts essentially in the Microsoft 365 clouds and sometimes Google Workspace for those that use them. But really what we've been doing as an industry is trying to make the least path of resistance for our users and for our customers the best path, right? And we've been doing this through technologies like single sign-on, where when you log into your computer at your desk, it's the same username and password as if you were to log into your email account in the cloud with your computer. And a lot of organizations are expanding this into third-party applications. Maybe they're using a CRM or other sales management platform and to authenticate with those same credentials they use to log into their computer.
yeah,
This tons of benefits that this has. It really does help reduce the attack surface because the less times you're entering in credentials and entering in prompts for multi-factor authentications, the less opportunities you have for an adversary to compromise those credentials, right? You keep a clean
yep,
room. But what you also get is you get a central gate to protect. And when you have that central gate to protect, that one key that rules them all, you get to be able to hyper focus on protecting it. But if somebody does get past that, then they've just gotten the keys in the kingdom.
right, right. So when you say identity, so are they stealing identity? Are they masking identity? Tell us a little bit more about what you mean when you say the word identity.
Absolutely. So when we say identity, we mean that the essentially the username and password that you use to log in to your account to access whatever work resources that you're accessing. And what threat actors are doing is that they know that you have a lot of layered security attempts to prevent them from getting in. These layers are going to be things like your password. It's going to be things like a multi-factor authentication push to, say, your mobile phone. Maybe you get a text code, maybe you just get a yes or no prompt or have to enter in a number. And it's also going to be things like automated backend tools most of us never see, called spam filtering, that are automatically clearing out the threats before they even get to your inbox. But ultimately, what they're doing is they're trying to trick users to clicking through links or downloading malicious files that then they can see everything that's going on. And then they steal that password and they steal that multi-factor authentication and they assume to be Dave, right? And when they assume to be Dave, they know that there's additional tripwires that have to be avoided. And so they work to live off of what's existing and spread laterally throughout the environment with that identity to avoid detection.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting. So, quick story. I golfed with a buddy last year, and he worked for a bank, and he brought the head of the bank. And about a week later, that buddy called me and said, "Hey, Dave, you don't need to email the head of the bank. He knows who you are." And I said, "I didn't." He said, "Oh, you absolutely did." And he forwarded me an
Oh
email,
no.
my email signature, right? And my email address, instead of D Vener, it was Dave Vener. And they copied my email address, and it was a phishing scam, right? They were trying to start a conversation. So I saw it firsthand.
And it happens to the best of us. We all like to think that we're immune to this and it won't happen to us, right? But
Sure.
I'll raise my hand and say I've fallen for a phishing scam at work as a
Yeah.
security engineer, right? It was actually during the time of COVID, we were all working from home and stuff like that. And they sent out an email blast with our security team sent out an email blast saying, "Hey, there's gonna be a food truck in the office. Click here to get the menu in advance." And I was just like, "Oh, silly people, right?" But I clicked it and it's like, "You got fished." I was like, "Oh no."
We have to stay aware and vigilant, don't we?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
But be prepared for when it eventually does happen, right? Because that's the mantra in that layered security stack is when someone gets through, how are you watching for that?
Sure. So I know the people that are going to be watching this, we all know about phishing, spishing, ransomware. You just talked about the identity. What other trends are Blackpoint seeing? What are the other attacks that Blackpoint are seeing today?
Absolutely. So a lot of what we're seeing is we see threat actors or criminals. I've been reminded I need to be better at calling them exactly what they are, criminals. They use what we call proxies or VPN solutions. These may be things like NordVPN or Tor or free VPN solutions that you can get from any consumer profile uh,
Yep.
to get around geography restrictions to pretend like they're in the home country. Security companies like Blackpoint have a lot of detections around these, but what we're seeing more so now are criminals using legitimate servers and computers within the host origin of country that they're connecting into and actually sharing across multiple different criminal organizations so that they can then connect to the customer's environment or a business organization and not have to use these VPNs to evade some of those detections. So we have a lot of techniques that we're using to detect those, but it starts to really get black and white on or really in the gray area, I should say, on what's legitimate and what's not. And there's certain techniques that you have to be aware for to look out for.
So you're telling me the criminals are collaborating?
Yeah, absolutely. Just like they do. Criminals they're business organizations, right? And
Oh yeah.
it's definitely very well known that they divide and conquer expertises just like you and I do, right?
Yeah.
Um, and they rent and sell infrastructure and servers and accesses to organizations to different people who take those next different steps. And by the time someone's compromised or by the time an organization is compromised, it's possible that it could have been one organization the whole time that has multiple different functions, maybe a conglomerate, you might say, right? But it's very likely that it's passed hands across 3 to 4 different criminal groups.
Jesus. I should have asked you this in the beginning, but can you give our viewers a flyover version of just who Blackpoint is and what you do, just at a 10,000 foot level?
Absolutely. So what Blackpoint, the category Blackpoint falls in is called managed detection and response. And what we're looking for is we're looking for criminal activity both on the endpoints. So that's going to be your local computers everybody uses or the servers that run your applications, as well as those cloud identity accounts. So that Microsoft 365 email. We're looking for criminals that have gained initial access and are in those early stage discovery steps. where they're trying to figure out what did they just compromise, what account did they land on, what privileges they have, and how they elevate those privileges. And then we kick them out with an average detection to response time of sub 25 minutes, and then pick up the phone and give partners like Tag Solutions a call to inform them exactly why we just did so and what our next step recommendations are. The big thing that I think translates well here is that a lot of organizations are under the impression that there's a criminal outside their environment, and then they got ransomware, or then they got wire fraud, right?
Yeah.
But what's commonly misunderstood is that there's actually a lot of steps involved once a criminal gains that initial access. They have to do all these discovery steps and privilege escalation steps in order to understand what they're going to do. And that can take minutes, it can take days, depending on the attacker, the organization, and the attack that's intended. And we're here for those early stage steps.
Got it. So I know that a lot of business owners I talk to, they're concerned about, they think during the day that they're protected, right? But 2 a.m, right? There's a breach. I mean, how does that work? How do you guys detect it, and do you stop it on your own without calling the MSP? Like how can you assure the people that with your solution that they'll be safe?
Absolutely. Criminals love holidays, Saturday nights, and weekends always tend to be busy times for us, right? I can kind of count on major holidays, checking my phone to ensure that all of our customers are okay, because something is typically happening during those times. The Blackpoint, we operate 24/7. That's one of the big value propositions we have, is that we are seeing cybersecurity events at the scale across all of our partners. That makes it very difficult for any one organization who doesn't specialize this to manage. But the other aspect here is that we operate on Tag's behalf as an act first, call second partner, where a lot of security organizations have what I like to call a fence, where they may toss something over the fence to the partners and say, that's kind of your responsibility. We did our boxes and checks, and now it's on you to take that next step. But we take action. We'll call Tag in the middle of the night, inform of what's going on. But once they take that call, we never stop. If we see additional activity and behaviors, we're going to continue to take action in isolation events, and then work with Tag jointly on what are those best next recovery steps.
Good. Great. Good to know. Good to know. So maybe you could share what can people do to stay ahead, other than obviously your service, but what are the things that people can do to ensure they're safe from a cybersecurity breach?
Yeah, absolutely. So planning for when it happens is always an aspect, right? But beyond having people who are watching for when it happens, I'm really big on that layered security stack, in the clean room as well. What I mean by a clean room is, if you think about your bedroom and if you have clothes all over the floor and your 2-year-old's toys or what have you, right? It's really difficult to catch a cockroach, right? Like, you're giving them lots of places to hide. But if you tidy up, make your bed, put your stuff away, you can shine a light on the bugs and squash them like it deserve to be. So I really encourage organizations to work on complete visibility of the working on asset documentation and inventory visibility, because it's really hard to protect what you can't see. You have to be able to know where to deploy things to. And then implementing layers such as antivirus, multi-factor authentication, and making sure it's enforced across all of the users. Things like spam filtering and then security awareness training are all great parts of a layered security stack.
Great. Yeah, I know we're pairing your product with a lot of those things. Anything else that can be paired with Blackpoint? Anything other than some of the things that you mentioned?
Yeah, absolutely. And it really comes down to what's the next best dollar of security spend for that customer. EDRs are absolutely fantastic. And then it can really come down to what requirements that specific business has as well. So businesses may have requirements from third parties, maybe their customers, maybe compliance requirements, maybe cyber insurance requirements as well.
Sure.
And a lot of these requirements are based off of frameworks such as NIST and ISO 27701. Just terms to basically say that they are a bunch of best practices that many other compliance frameworks like CMMC and HIPAA base their compliances on. And a lot of these are beginning to include things like continuous monitoring of environments, which a security operations center like Blackpoint can address.
Great, awesome. And I don't know if you're are talking about these things, maybe it's outside of your purview, but some of the additional things that you hadn't mentioned that we talk to our clients about, I would say, I don't use number one, but having an incident response plan. So one of the things we know is when an event happens, it can be incredibly chaotic. And how do you know who to call, what to say, right? And so having that documented, I think, is key. And I'm sure some of the people you work with talk about an incident response plan. And the other thing we hadn't talked about was a good backup. I can tell you that, we've worked with several organizations, unfortunately, who've been the victim of some sort of breach. The number one way they get up and running quickly is having a really good backup that we can restore from. So, and that's tested. So, yeah, I'm sure.
That's absolutely key. And I'm also glad that you dropped in the word tested backup, right? Because it's your backup really is only as good as the last time that you've evaluated it.
I'm on a lot of these conversations. I'm on a lot of panels. I talk to a lot of business owners. When I ask the question, do you have backup? I would say 95% of the time I get a nod. When I ask the question, when was the last time you tested? I get these blank stares. I think our MSP tested it. My IT guy tested it. And, as entrepreneurs, business owners, we need to know. Like, yes. You can't be arm's length transaction from this, right? You need to know. Great. Go ahead.
No, and building it as part of even a checklist, as part of an annual process of just making sure, annual at least, that you're hitting a handful of different boxes, even if you really know it's already there. Sometimes you never know what you uncover until you look.
Yeah. So here's a surprise question, right? I mean, sure. We're living in a chat GBT AI driven world. Mm-hmm. I'm hearing a lot is happening in the world of cybersecurity with AI. I hear that some of the criminals now are masking leaders' voice and calling, and so it's no longer, hey, email and can you go get a bunch of debit cards? It's a phone call, right, from Dave Vener. So what other types of things are you seeing? Any trends on AI that you can share with our viewers?
Yeah, great piece. And I feel like this, especially the cloned voice calls, went from highly targeted attacks only due to the expertise and resources needed to common everyday aspects, and even used in some political smear campaigns and stuff like that, right? At mass scale. And that speed of that was just absolutely astounding. Yeah. What we're seeing is that criminals definitely are utilizing AI to advance their business operations, but they're not necessarily replacing their people with AI quite yet, right? It just kind of draws the similarities to criminal organizations and legitimate organizations, right? So we're seeing the criminal organizations use AI to get better phishing emails and campaigns. We used to see a lot of times that it was very broken English and didn't necessarily make sense, and sometimes was intentional just to catch people who weren't paying much attention, right? But we're seeing that the quality of that is getting a lot better. It's helping accelerate their research. And we're also seeing them utilize AI for development practices. They're able to use it to build environments and host attack environments much faster with less resources than they were before, so that when they do get stopped and they do get taken down, they are able to just simply rebuild and pop up a new infrastructure very quickly.
That's nuts. That is nuts.
But the reports that I have seen is that the defenders are seem to be at this time utilizing AI more than the attackers, or usually getting a better value output out of AI than the attackers. There's definitely a lot of safeguards that these AI platforms have in place to help ensure that. But every organization is going to have to use it as part of their augmentation of their human analysts to be able to stay ahead for sure.
It's a battle between the bots. There's the bad actors, and then the defense mechanisms that we need to put up.
It's at its core, as much as we hate it, but at its core, it's always a cat and mouse game, right? And
sure, for sure. Well, Aaron, I appreciate your time. I appreciate all the great work that Blackpoint does for us and our customers, and I thank you very much.
Yeah, great talk. Great having you. Great being on here. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.